So yeah, hi everyone and welcome. Our guest today will be giving us a glimpse into politics and also current affairs, but also tell us a bit about themselves. So I'll hand over with any further ado, hand over to our guest today who's spared some time to talk to us. So please feel free to share who you are, Charlie, and introduce yourself to the community, please.
Well, I'm Charles Thompson. I live in I live in Huntsville, Alabama, in the U.S. I'm a politician. Well, I won't consider myself a politician. I consider them a bunch of liars. I'm more of a statesman and a true civil servant. I'm a guy that wants to better society. Make the world, make America better, make the world better. I came from basically where I live. I live in the same neighborhood I grew up in. I actually bought a house there recently, within the last 10 years. But I come from a difficult background. I saw a lot of really bad things happen to people. Life was fun. I have to say it like that because as a kid, I grew up in the drug game and with a lot of things like that around me. I went to college, biology degree, chemistry degree. I've worked my way through the world trying to improve everything. I'm big on keeping up with current events, world events, U.S. events, because what affects people on the other side of the world still affects us. It may not be directly, but it all affects all of us because all of us are in this world together. Ooh.
In regards to youth and that kind of element of pick and what could be what's
Whoa, you just went in and out on me
currently.
so bad. You completely went in and out while saying that. Like it started the first two words, then it just went out and then it came back.
So yeah, so I would love to ask what's your view of how the projects are for youth, the kind of opportunities. What's your intake on this?
Where I'm at in Alabama, we have a very conservative supermajority in our state. And so what they do is, even though we have a lot of federal projects that go for youth and trying to get them food, trying to get them, health care, trying to get, like Boys and Girls Club and things like that for them to be involved in, our state doesn't like to do a lot of that. It wants to save its money and gives it to, the more corrupt, affluent individuals. And so we're not seeing as many opportunities in my state for youth. The education level is 48th in the United States. United States is now 20 in the world. So you're seeing America decline in education. And in a state like this one, where the conservative majority wants to hold everybody down and doesn't want educated people because they would change the state, they're really not giving these kids a lot of opportunity. So it wouldn't surprise me if here in the next 2 years you start seeing the youth crime rate go up because they don't have the opportunities to be in places. They are hungry. The federal government made it to where food, you could go to school during the summer and get free meals because some of these families don't have enough money to feed their kids. So this would be a way for kids to get food and opportunity to get money and more education. And states like mine have decided not to do it and are just not going to ask for the funds or anything, which have already been approved. So it's going to be an issue here for kids today and in the future, because they're not getting the help and from and the support from the state as a whole.
Thank you for that insight. And what would you say would be the kind of clear action plans which would need to be in place to ensure that there is projects and the investments going into the right place?
For Alabama personally, we're going to have to change leadership. It's not going to happen any other way. It's going to come down to people voting. It doesn't matter, any democratic country is going to have to vote. And as we've seen this year alone in Russia, they're called democracy, but we already know there's, Putin has control of the entire system. We already know it's called a presidency. It's more of a dictatorship. And we're seeing in America with the rise of extremism, especially white Christian nationalism and Trump, a potential for us going the same way. So if these people get elected, they're going to cut more programs that take more opportunities from children, take more food out of their mouth. And that's just going to cause more issues. We have nationally, we've put in the work to get these programs in place, but yet locally, they're not being implemented. The local politicians are going to have to actually put in work. They're going to have to bring these programs to the people. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. And, we're talking, food, we're talking opportunities and activities. We need to bring the cost of education down so that a lot of these kids from lower, communities who don't have the economics can still go to college, afford it, get a better job. Opportunity in general will benefit. And I mean, there's been studies shown that a low income area, if it has the opportunity to send people to college, to get them a better chance of the future, crime rates in those areas drop because people just want a chance to be better. If they don't have a chance, crime goes up because they have needs. When you're hungry, still get money, get food. So those have not been implemented locally. And if we don't vote these people out, they're never going to be implemented locally. And we're just going to keep this same banging our head against the wall outcome.
And in regards to that, and on the element of starting locally, what are the things that currently are going on locally at the moment, or something that you've been involved with to ensure people investment and also their voice is being acknowledged, and also investment going into those projects from your personal experience?
I mean, me personally, obviously, I'm a politician, so I do a lot of talking about these subjects. But also, I'm well involved in the community. I go to the trans rights. I go to the LGBT rights. I go to the people who are fighting to put in reasonable laws to make sure we don't have this abortion ban that we're starting to see pop up around the world through corrupt means. These are things that's going to punish kids. I mean, you got a 12-year-old that just got knocked up by a father raping them. Well, you just destroyed their entire life because they have to have this kid now. Now they have a mouth to feed. That's $400,000 or $500,000 for a kid that can't even make money. So I'm always politically activated. I'm always trying to talk to people. I'm always trying to do things like this so that I can get the word out about what we're doing locally. And what, as I said, what affects us locally here, I know you're on the other side. You're in 5:30 and it's 11:30 here. So we have a 6-hour time difference. But if you see America have economic issues, and these issues are going to cause economic issues, that's going to cause world economic issues. So it's going to affect your country. It's going to affect the GDP of this entire planet. So that's why I said those little things matter. That's why I'm so big on trying to get Alabama to adjust and modernize, so that we can have these good things for people, so that we can have lower crime rates and better education, and therefore have a more profitable state and country, because then it's going to help the world in general. It's all linked. And so we have to keep talking. We have to keep finding ways to get these words out there. Nobody's going to change if they don't hear the ways to change.
And how would you say policy looks currently, or is it going to look 20 years now, for example, when it comes to policy and ideas, or being innovative with policy? What's your views on this element?
If the extreme right gets control, like they have, like they did in Hungary and Russia and Brazil, we could see a lot more people being hindered, a lot more people being held down, a lot more corrupt politicians, a lot of more negativity. But what we're seeing is Orban just lost in Hungary. Turkey is looking at changing all of these really restrictive, leaderships and policies. I hope that what we're seeing keeps happening and we get more progressive issues. We get people who are policies are really trying to help and trying to be civil servants, trying to get to the people of these countries and helping their people. If that changes, then you could see a completely different world in 10 to 20 years, where you do see more needs being met in this world. You see better growth. in countries that are considered third world, because they now have the opportunity, because of the help from the larger countries, and through the things that we've learned by what we've done in our societies to improve our policy, to improve those policies and get them on a right track to where kids in those countries can have the chances to become successful too. And those countries will then build and not be considered third world countries, and will be looked at as a world leader themselves. We've all got to be looking at how we can work this together. And that's what I'm hoping happens. Is I'm hoping after this election in the US, because I honestly think, I know the US isn't the whole world, but being the largest country, the world pays attention to what the US does politically. And if we can get rid of this extremism in America and start making these changes, we'll be somebody that a lot of people can look at, like they do in a lot of countries in Europe when they make good changes on how to lead society to make the better policy worldwide. And that's what I'm really hoping for. And with the extremism and the way it has such a limited time on people, because it is something that's so divisive that a lot of people just walk away from it, I'm hoping this election goes that way, and then we can start seeing that improvement over these next few years of policy changes.
And in regards to, because I know that, okay, so here in the UK, we have a two-party system, you could almost say, even though we have other parties, we do have a two-party system, which probably most people would agree is the element that kind of is executed, and that's because of the seats that a politician would be able to have, for example, in like our House of Commons. In America, I know this is the big kind of element as well. Is there a new kind of idea of independent parties, or kind of majority choice, for example, if I may ask, for those individuals?
What we have in America, you have the two major parties, the Republicans and the Democrats. They'd be like your Labor Party and the Tory Party. That's kind of what they are. But what we have multiple other parties like libertarians, socialist Democrats, there's independents, there's the Green Party, there's all these new parties coming up. But the way the voting works, the way the money's moved around for the donors for elections, it's really a two-party system. One of the ideas that has become very popular, and I'm a fan of it, is ranked choice voting. It's a voting system where instead of voting just the person, or you're like, okay, I have this person, I have this Republican, this Democrat, this Libertarian, this, and this, and I can only vote one. Well, it ends up being the two parties that get the vote. But in a ranked choice voting, you can rank all 6, 7, whatever, and you can be like, well, I want this Republican first, or this Democrat first, and this Libertarian second, and this Green Party third, and you can rank them. And that ranking counts to attribute points, where, basically if you're first, you get the most points for that vote. And if you're seventh, you get the least points. But when you add all that together, you get an overall system where people who are second, third, fourth parties that you wouldn't normally expect to win, if they have good policy, now might be able to pull some of those votes. And instead of having a two major party system, you could have 4 or 5 parties that have enough seats to where nobody has a true majority and just can't just start pushing stuff through and just, doing things however they want.
Interesting. And in regards to that perspective of voting and how this system is kind of laid out in America, what is the element when it comes to the donors, and when it also comes to war? What's that kind of outlook from your point of view, if I may ask?
Well, the donors in America, about 13 years ago, they passed, the Supreme Court allowed Citizens United to win its court case. What that meant was all the secret money that had been funneling to politicians for years now just became public knowledge. Basically, it was public corruption. Only it has a caveat of a thing called a super PAC. A super PAC can give as much money they want to a candidate, which isn't fair when an average person can only give $5,000 per election. But yeah, these people can give millions, and they don't have to tell where their money came from. It could come from corporations who are technically were never supposed to be legally allowed to donate to campaigns. It can come from private donors who want to put an insane amount of money into a politician, hoping that they get a benefit later, through voting. Or it can come from foreign nationals because these things don't have to keep record. It could be an Orban, it could be a Putin, it could be Netanyahu that sends $1 million to some politician so that they get into office and then vote for, Israel to do genocide on Gaza. It could be any of those. Xi out of China could donate, as long as he donates to a super PAC, and could actually tell the super PAC where he wants that money to go. It's a corrupt system. They allowed the corruption to be there. And until we have anti-corruption laws and proper campaign finance laws, we're not going to get rid of this dark money. We're not going to get rid of this issue that's driving this two-party system. If we can do that, then we can probably get ranked choice. We can get some ethics. Maybe we can even get, good politicians that have good policy, actually honest people like me up there, which is my entire goal. Because then we can look at, what we're doing. Obviously, I had no problem originally with Israel standing up to Hamas for attacking them. Honestly, I believe somebody punch you in the face, you have a right to punch them back. But there's a difference between that and the genocide you're seeing now, where they're literally trying to destroy all the people of Gaza. Most of them are basically innocent people. That's just corrupt. It's wrong. This is not Genghis Khan. This isn't the 12th century. We're not, that's not what we're supposed to be doing anymore. We're supposed to be more intelligent. You got Russia just running over Ukraine. At the same time, they're paying a large one of the two large parties in America to back them fighting Ukraine, which is them trying to be imperialistic again. I thought we were past colonialism now, but obviously Putin is not. He wants to rebuild the USSR. He wants to push it against NATO, and he's actually put enough money through these private super PACs, dark money through, that he's got politicians on the Republican Party actually fighting for him by not giving Ukraine money, not trying to get them weapons to protect themselves. Basically, they've used the corruption as a way to funnel these wars. And now you're looking at what could happen with China and Taiwan now that they've seen what happened with Russia and Ukraine. There could be another war. We forgot that people have to be first. And we forgot to figure out who the corrupt were. And we forgot that you can't let corruption win in society. I've heard for years people talk about Rome fell because of, we're going to go with what they said, homosexuality, perversion. That's not what killed Rome. Bad policy and corruption and money. That's what always does it. This was doing it here. And if America falls, again, being the largest country, that's an economic destruction for the rest of the world too. That's just too much market share gone. China would be the same problem. And they're having economic issues because of bad socialist policies and bad capitalistic policies they're trying to put in because they're big on control. Russia's losing because of the war and all of the embargoes and things that UK, Europe, and America's put on them because of them starting a war. And what are these guys doing? Funneling money into American politics because they know if they can change the American politics, they can change that behavior from us and open themselves up for more money and more power.
Thank you so much for that insightful share. And in regard to your personal outlook, what would be your 3 top tips for any upcoming politician to have a quality standard of a moral compass while being a politician in now or 20 years' time?
I always look at it from my perspective as ethics are first. I tell people all the time, don't listen to what a politician tells you on his platform or whatever. First, does he have ethics? Is he going to be an honorable person? Is he going to say, hey, this is what I'm going to say and this is what I'm going to do, and to be the same exact thing? So look for ethics. After ethics, then platform. And since that's the way I look at a politician should be, then the politicians need to listen to that. First, make sure you're being ethical. Make sure the things you want are things that better people. You put the needs of the many outweigh the wants of the few. If your one best friend who pays you money to go to politics, I need a $20 million, and you go into office to get him his $20 million, you're not being ethical. But if he agrees, look, I just want you to go there because I know you're going to do good. And if you do well, we'll all as a country make more money. And you go up there and you do, proper policy and you make the country more money, then that's ethical. You're helping. So first it's ethics. And then it's a platform that's about the people. It's about making sure the people are taken care of. And what I've found out is most of the policies that make people taken care of are actually economic policies that actually make the country more money. So they're actually good principles too. They're economically intelligent. They actually save you money and make a stronger, smarter economy and country. So that would be the first two: is first being ethical, and second having a platform that's ethical, and third is the willpower to get it done. You're going to have to make deals. You're going to have to get people on your side. You're going to have to negotiate with people who are not ethical, who don't want those things, and you're going to have to figure out how to get those people to do it. If you've got to get a little dirty, you got to get a little dirty. It's politics. Sometimes you gotta break a few eggs to make an omelet. So I'm not saying go break laws, but I'm saying you're going to have to stand up and say, this is what we want. This is what I'm going to get. Well, this guy's not going to let me have it unless I get dirty with him. So I'm going to have to get dirty to make sure he follows me too. I need his vote too. It's going to take it's really balancing a line to, I'm ethical, trying to do the right thing, but I know this is politics, and politics makes strange bedfellows, and politics is a dirty business. So you can't go in there going, I'm going to stay clean. Like, no, you want to be ethical. You don't want to be a criminal, but you might have to get a little dirty. You're going to have to make some deals and work with people you may not want to work with, because it's going to take that compromise to get these things done. It's not going to happen if you just want to do it yourself. You're going to have to get other people on your side too.
Thank you for that helpful share for the audience. And I would love to ask, I asked all my guests this question, and the very question I would like to ask is, do you believe we are able to live in a world of world peace?
Yes. I think the issue is we have greed. And that's what you see with a Putin, a Z, a Trump, a Bolsonaro. You see greed. You see people who want power. That's kind of the first rule as a voter. If a person wants power, that's the person you don't want in power. You want a person who doesn't want power, who doesn't have a craving for it, because power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So when you're putting them in this position, you're giving them power, and that can corrupt them. You need strong, ethical people, because their ethics will make sure they're not corrupt. Their morals will make sure they're not corrupt. That's going to be key to this. And I think if you get rid of those people, then if you put in policies to get rid of the need, and I have a statement about that, where as long as we have greed, we'll always have need. Once we get rid of the greed, we'll get rid of the needs. Then we can build the system the way I like the idea, which is all needs are socialized, all wants are capitalized upon. It's a capitalist system, but it makes sure that everybody's going to be able to have affordable groceries. It's going to make sure that, you can have water, electricity, things you're going to need to survive. And those aren't going to cost you. Those are basically, you have those. So all you're having to spend money on is what you want in life. If we can do that, people's needs will be met. They won't be violent. When people have their needs met, they're not violent. When you have that lack of violence at the lower level, it's going to move its way up, because then all you have is what your country versus another country says. And then it's just about us working together, negotiating. If we do that and actually sit down at the negotiating table, especially with like the Middle East and everybody that's been pushing their hands in, Russia, UK, America, plus the countries that live there, plus the terrorist organizations, once we can all figure out how to work ourselves as our own countries together, then we can work together and actually sit down at the negotiating table and fix a lot of these problems. Once we fix a lot of these top problems and relieve the stress on the system, I honestly think we could have a chance at world peace. In fact, I think if we don't get world peace, we'll end up destroying ourselves. As Einstein said, I know with what weapons World War IV would be fought with, but World War III will be fought with, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. Because if we go to World War III, if this continues, this behavior of violence and aggression continues, we're going to blow ourselves with nuclear weapons off the map. We won't exist anymore as a society that we think. And that's what the bottleneck of history is, that we've heard about through science, that we're at a bottleneck. We're trying to become a tier 1 society, and right now we're like a 0.78. Well, it's that battle of the old way of thinking that wants to control and be powerful and do how it wants to do and keep these rules that aren't logical rules, like gay people should be killed. Like, that's a dumb rule. There's no God that's an actual God would ever support that idea, but they're using God as a reason to do it. As long as those people are around doing that type of thing, we're never going to move forward. We have to get rid of that. Otherwise, we're going to have all this fighting until we kill ourselves. We have to be willing to work together. We have to be willing to work with people who are different than us. And those people that can't do that are going to hopefully, if everything goes right, will eventually just no longer exist. Because if we are putting money in education, We're getting smarter people. Smarter people are more open-minded, are less judgmental, are less likely to despise somebody because of the color of their skin or the religion they come from. They're more likely just to judge on the content of character. And that's what we need, is a bunch of good people with good character. And so all of it's working together from the base up, that if we do this right, I think we absolutely can have world peace, or we'll have world war and destroy ourselves. And so we really need to be looking at ethical politicians, because we should be looking at that positive outcome, because the next world war is probably the last one we're going to have.
Thank you so much, and thank you for that share and insight. And thank you so much for your time. Another thing I would love to ask you, is there anything you would like to inform the community about? Any projects that you are involved with, or anything that you currently are doing to bring awareness, which you would like to share? This is your opportunity. Thank you.
If you really want to see what I'm doing, go to the Charlie Truth on Twitter, on X. That's literally where you see, and when I'm working with groups, I'll post pictures or tell you who I'm working with. I do that sometimes on my political Facebook, but not my regular Facebook. I try to separate the two, because my actual friends don't like politics, and I completely understand. In America right now, it's just politics, politics, politics. So that's like how I separate my regular life from politics, because I do have a political platform, and that stays on the political part of Facebook. So those are places you can go to see what I'm doing when I'm working for, and gay rights and trans rights. And, I'm pro-choice. So I'm doing a lot of that. When I was campaigning for my own congressional seat in the U.S. House, I worked with Normal and a lot of groups like that were for marijuana legalization, because personally I'm for it. My state now has medicinal, and they still haven't got through it, but they've at least passed that. So I'm always trying to work on something. Right now I'm not as physically active, because I'm not as able to leave the house right now because of everything I'm doing and just the situation I'm in. But every chance I get, I'm out there campaigning. I'm out there at meetings. I'm out there trying to politic and get with the community. And I'm 100% believe that's going to have the way it's going to have to be. You have to be involved. You have to, make your voice be counted. And that's what I'm big on for everyone.
Thank you so much. And also, is there any last points in regards to registering to vote? Because I know that you've got your election coming up. Over here, we've got our election going to be coming up as well. But for any Americans, what is the process of them to register to vote, to make sure their voice is heard?
You can just go to, in Alabama, in my state, you just go to the Secretary of State website, which is sos.alabama, to register. But I know that there is a federal registry too. I believe it's vote.com or the vote.gov. And through there, you can actually start filling out the paperwork. I know here in, a few months, when I start helping people campaign for the election in November here, that there will be going around if we do canvassing, we'll always go around to get people to vote. We'll have paperwork there where we get them to sign everything and do it paper, and then we'll just send it to the state so they can get registered too. So that's a lot of hands-on. But as I said, for anybody, if you have your phone, if you have the computer, you can always get on vote.org, vote.gov, sos.alabama, whatever you need to. You can just look it up in Google, type in how to get registered to vote in your state, and it will give you the information, and you go in there and vote. Because in America, let's be real, not even half the country really votes. If everybody voted, you wouldn't see as much extremism. You would see a lot more moderate and policies. You see a lot less division, and you see a lot more people working together that actually would make laws pass. I mean, since we've had a Republican House, the last 2 years has been they've done nothing. It's been infighting the whole time, so nothing's happened. But if you all registered to vote and everybody's putting in their voice, then you won't have these extremists. You'll have a bunch of moderates who are willing to work together, and then we will actually get things done in this country, and they'll improve our country for everyone.
Thank you, Charlie, for that important share and that really helpful share for individuals who have not registered to vote. So in the meantime, we've just had a wonderful discussion with Charlie Thompson. He's given us his wonderful insights and shares, and also what he is doing in his community. For everyone else as well in the UK, please do remember to register to vote. We'll put this information, which has been shared by our guests, in our show notes, and we'll also put the information for the UK citizens as well who would like to know how to register to vote in our show notes. But in the meantime, thank you to everyone who's joined. Thank you to everyone who's spared some time to listen and share some wonderful questions. We'll also share all this information, and enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. You've been listening to myself, Aquayemi-Claude, Akinsanya, and Charlie Thompson on another edition of Shine a Spotlight, Captivating Awareness. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.
Have a good one.